Welcome to Season 2 with the Market Mystics, where we discuss and redefine markets, wealth, and trading on Earth as it is in heaven. Join us on the journey while we consider new possibilities with special guests who might just challenge a few perspectives. Get ready to dive in deep with your hosts, Joshua and Kim.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back from the weekend.
Happy Monday.
Happy Monday. You know, since I don't work in the corporate world, I can say that with real joy in my heart.
That's true. I was actually thinking this morning, like, I woke up, I don't know, pretty early and just decided to set my alarm for a later time. And I was like, I can do that. And it's Monday, and Monday is a great day. Like, I don't dread Monday anymore. So it's a nice thing to feel.
Agreed. You know what? Every Monday could just be a fresh start.
That's true.
I know it's not like any kind of calendar first day of the week, except like a work calendar. But so many of us have been conditioned to that I mean, it kind of feels like a new week on Monday. So why not just make it a good, fresh start?
Right. Yeah, that's awesome. So part of our last week of podcasting was connection with nature. Mm-hmm. And Kim is living that out in the best way possible by recording this podcast from her backyard.
Yay!
And I felt left out because I am inside in the air conditioning. And so I made my background trees.
You're funny. I've been spending a lot of time outside this week.
Awesome.
Every meeting that I can have outside, I've been having outside. I can't tell you how many Zoom calls have seen my backyard.
That's so
it kind of moves around from time to time. My daughter and I have done some really good exploring. Well, and the dog, he likes to go with us. We've done some good exploring around in our neighborhood. We're really close to a kind of a nature part. I don't know. We live in a city, but they're very close. At the end of the block is a lot of nature. We've done listening to birds and bugs and talking about them and kind of making agreements with them to not bother us, and appreciated the wind.
Touched on that. We touched on the bugs a little bit last time. I'm curious, have you seen any improvement or change in the way the bugs interact with you?
No, well, when I can see them, I feel like they will land and they won't bite, which is good. I've not had an issue with flies. Like, usually my backyard, I don't know why, not the front yard, but if I come out here to eat, which is what I love to do because we have this deck and it's under this big tree, this tree right here. And it's a nice place to eat. But usually, like, after June, the flies are crazy. But I've had plenty of meals out here in the last week and they've been fine. So that's good. But I also have legs covered with mosquito bites. So there's that too. Obviously, I didn't get through the mosquitoes.
Right.
Or they're not interested in the deal I had to offer.
That's
we're still in negotiations.
That's possible too.
Yeah. What about you?
So I would say I had a pretty good connection with nature, like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then Friday I had some personal things going on that flowed into the weekend, and I still was outside every day, but not with quite the intensity or like focus as I had wanted to see.
Makes sense. But you're still out in nature.
But I was still out in nature every day. So I like it. And yesterday I was outside for a few minutes. We had it never actually stormed, but we had thunder rolling through, and it was just amazing to listen to. And so I sat outside for a few minutes, and yes, experienced some mosquitoes. So I feel like that's kind of a tough thing for me. It's like, I want to experience this without the negative aspects of it. but I'm not quite sure how to do that yet.
Yeah, same. I think there's still maybe some reconciliation to
Mhm.
come, at least on my side of things with mosquitoes. They're kind of the bane of the insect population, or have been in my life. Killed a lot of
Sure.
mosquitoes in my life.
Yeah.
And there's probably some, yeah, unresolved conflict that needs to
I
happen more than
know
just going, hey, let's make this agreement.
I know in myself I regularly make jokes that mosquitoes must be the fallen version of something because there's no way that they had a redemptive purpose. But
No
uh
wonder they still bite.
right, yeah. So that's what I was thinking was, yeah, that's probably not a surprise that they still bite me.
Oh dear. We've got some work to do, Josh.
Hey, that's the whole point of this is to do the work on it, to figure out, yeah, to experience that, to learn to enjoy it, to yeah, not that you have to learn to enjoy being bit by a mosquito, but it's just the practice of it, I think, is important.
For sure. I had on Friday, I had an experience which was interesting. I went and cut some wildflowers, and it was interesting because first I went on a walk because I wanted to find them. I wanted to find more than one kind. And I just really, as we talked about last week, I really, really love seeing wildflowers just pop up in different places.
Yeah.
Again, I live in a city and that's where I found them. And I love that that is a thing. Don't worry, I didn't go onto anybody's property and cut their garden or something like this. This was on like public land. But first I went on a walk and I was really appreciating them because it really was
Mm.
just beautiful. All the different kind of flora that is around and I just don't pay attention to is mind-boggling. This is one of
Yeah.
my favorite things about traveling. Josh, you know this. Every time we go to South Africa, I'm like in awe of all of the plants. I'm like, but look at this tree. Oh, and this succulent is so beautiful. And look, it actually grows here. It doesn't have to be in a pot. It's so pretty. And I've never seen a flower like this. And look how this leaf is shaped. Like, I just get real like geeky about it. And you would think I'm plant obsessed, and I'm not. I just, for some reason, have recently started seeing the beauty in some of these things. So, anyway, now I'm starting to notice it in my home space, which you would think I would notice first, but I think it's been so familiar that you just kind of ignore it. You ever
Mm.
feel like that? It's like,
For
oh,
sure.
it's an oak tree in my backyard. Yeah, it's giant. And some people would think it's majestic, but it's my backyard. And I just know this tree and it's always here and all the things.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, so I was going with these wildflowers, and I was going and I touched a few of them and I asked if I could cut them before I cut them. And I told them why, and that it was just because I found such beauty in them and I wanted to share that with someone else who
Mhm.
also really appreciates that, and they agreed to be cut, which I thought was really cool and also sounds really wacky, and I understand that. However, again, I believe that as part of creation we can also communicate with other parts of creation regardless of whether they're human.
Mm.
um and I didn't say this out loud. Let me just tell you, like, practical, this is what's happening. This is like in my spirit. I'm like tuning in and I'm just like kind of sending out vibes of love and like
Mm.
how I appreciate them. And if you are a human, then you know that that can be real. Because have you ever gazed into the eyes of a loving partner and you know that they love you without any words being spoken? You know that happens,
Yeah.
right? Like there can be
Yeah.
this exchange of energy in that and intention. Um, anyway, so I did that. And then while I was driving with these flowers in my car, probably after about 20 minutes, a little green spider comes out and like hangs out on the front of one of these sunflowers that I cut. And I was like, oh no. And then I was like, oh, hey there. Like I'm having to remind myself, hey, guess what? We're not being enemies with nature.
Mm.
Um, and so I had a little like, it would be very helpful to me if you would just stay on this flower. I'm not going to kill you. I'm not going to smush you. I'm not going to chase you. But if you could just stay right here, that would be very helpful. And it did. And eventually I stopped on the side of the road and let him know I was relocating him, and I let him out the door and then went on.
That's awesome.
I know. This is so fun. These are the things I'm doing. These are the things we're doing now, Josh.
These are the things we're doing. And I think it's great. And maybe yeah, whether or not I don't know, if you want to be skeptical and say, well, there's no connection there, that's fine, because it's still just learning to appreciate nature in a way that we haven't before.
It's true. It's true.
Yeah.
And, and another way, it is honoring the Father. If you believe you have a creator, you can honor your creator by honoring his creation.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I need to get better about honoring the creation that looks like me, because oftentimes it's easier for me to love the animals than it is for me to love the humans.
I mean, same. Same. I've actually really been looking forward to this week. This is a good segue. It's very real. I don't think that was a planned segue, but it just true.
Mm-hmm.
This next week, what we're working on is working on health and loving ourselves and tuning into the different parts of ourselves that maybe we have pushed down or pushed aside or abused in some way. And really coming into unification with that. So if we recap, first week of July, it was stillness, right? And it was really connecting with the spirit and setting a foundation to be able to focus on other things and take actions as sons of God, right? With these different things. So last week we just talked about was with nature and creation. And so this week is with kind of ourselves and other humans. But mostly ourselves this week, right? So we could look at it like health, but we can also look at it as kind of reconciliation, and coming into oneness with all the parts of us.
Yeah. We titled, or we, in our notes when we were planning it this week, we called it health and then connection with ourself. And so it really is just that thought of building upon the other pieces that we've done. But what is it that you need? And I know maybe we've talked about this. I'm not sure if we have or not. My wife is an emotional health coach, and one of the things that she talks about working with people when you begin is like learning to listen to your body, learning to listen to yourself, and like at the very simplest level, like, do you go to the bathroom when your body needs to go to the bathroom, or do you like force it to hold it because you're busy doing something else? And like that's just it's just a really simple analogy of like, this is what we're talking about. And yes, it's exercise, and yes, it's diet, and um, things we consume either through our mouths or through our eyes or through our ears. Like all of that plays into health. But it is also just that connection with your body of like, can you talk to your body and know what it needs?
Or can you listen to your body and allow it the things that it needs?
Yeah.
That's a big one for me.
Yeah, one thing I was just talking to her last night, makes me think of this, was we were talking about like feeding children and how oftentimes we, I'm going to say this from a place of not being a parent. So take that with a grain of salt. I have observed parents feeding kids when the parents eat, what the parents eat, how much the parents eat. As opposed to allowing the child at a basic core level to be the one to decide how much they eat and when they eat. Um, And at some level, our conversation was about that you're teaching the child at an early age that they don't have, that their body, not to listen to their body. And I think that's interesting because that's now what we're talking about doing again, is like, as Kim runs from the bee,
I know.
um, that's at a basic level. What we're talking about now is like learning to listen to our body as adults again, of, should I eat 3 times a day? Should I eat 2 times a day? Should I eat 4 times a day? What should I eat when I eat? Do I need to get up and move around? Do I need to stretch? Do I need to lift something heavy? I think the body is smart and intelligent. And if we just listen to it and learn to grow that connection, it'll tell us what it is we need.
I think you're right. A few years ago, I started this whole health journey. I had some issues that weren't getting solved by like doctors and things. And so I just decided I would go a different route. And I had this like really big epiphany moment that was spurred on by somebody else. And it was, hey, did you ask the Lord what you should do? And I was like, of course I didn't. But then I did. And he kind of gave me a protocol on what to do. But in switching kind of the lifestyle of how I was eating and what I was eating and how I was consuming these things, one of the things that I was really focusing on was listening to my body to tell me when I'm full and listening to my body to tell me when I'm hungry, like real hunger, not craving. So not brain telling brain, but body telling brain. Right. And it didn't actually take that long, but I could start. Here's this bug again. And it's a mosquito, and they don't like to listen to me. I'm sorry. Listening to my body to tell me, okay, I'm satisfied. Like there are these triggers and these signals that happen that we tend to push down when we start self-medicating with food and things, which I think is really typical in the US at least. Like we eat for pleasure, man. I know like very few people who are like, food is fuel. Most people are live to eat, not eat to live, right? Which means that we kind of turn off those triggers. So it's like, oh, I'm full, but this flavor tastes so good. And I'm getting this rush of dopamine when I have this. And so I want more of this, as opposed to my body needs this or it needs that. But even just that shift, and again, it doesn't take very long, is really coming into a little bit of agreement and unity with your body to allow it to have some say in how you consume and what you consume and those kinds of things. I haven't found with like the things that my body wants compared to the things that my husband's body wants. Like he needs meat. His body needs meat every meal of the day. My body could take it or leave it. I'm not a vegetarian or anything, but I don't care if I have a steak. Like I just don't care.
Yeah.
It's not something that my body is really drawn toward. Now, if we talk about greens, that is a different story. And my body's like, give me, you know? But sometimes if you can just kind of put the focus back on your body and allow it to tell you and send the signals. And if you're willing to listen, I think it can make a huge difference in how it functions, but also how it allows itself to function with the rest of you. You know, like give it a voice. Let it have a say.
Let it have a say. I think that's great. Yeah. And I think it's interesting that you brought up like food for fuel, because I know we've talked about this before on the podcast, because there's in our journey of going up and down the mountain, there have been times where both of us have talked about food as fuel. And there have been times where both of us have talked about eating for pleasure, not for fuel, and the benefits of that. And yeah, it's just fascinating to me because depending on where you are and what's going on at the moment, um, and what your body needs, they both could be applicable at certain times.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's just it's a fascinating thing for me to watch this progression of like, yeah, like it's so hard to just pinpoint and say this is the answer. And like you talked about, um, like you don't necessarily need meat every day, but you do love greens, and like it's so personal. It's not one size fits all. There's nothing that we could tell you here that just says this is the answer. But what could be said is that is just what you said of let your body have a voice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The other thing that I want to focus on this week regarding food, and we've talked about this personally before, but really giving honor and gratitude for whatever essence of life was given in the food that I'm about to consume that will then give me life. So whether it is eating meat and being grateful for that life that was given so that I can have this piece of meat to eat and then give me fuel, or if it's even like the green, it's the piece of kale or whatever. I actually don't eat kale, but if it's a piece of kale, it was also a living thing, right?
Yeah.
And it was grown and it had nutrients and nutrition from the soil, and it absorbed the water and the sun so that it could come and be this plant so that it could nourish someone else. And I forget sometimes that there's like a whole process in that. And it is just like, well, I went to the store and I got this and now I'm eating it. And I'm about to go on a tangent. Here's just a warning. There's this thing, we've talked about this for years with each other and with other friends, like kind of this draw to have like a homestead kind of thing, right? Where you like raise your own livestock and you grow your own food and these things. And the concept in it that I think is so appealing to me, among other things, but one of the big ones is kind of restoring that gratitude for what you're eating. Because if you actually have to work the soil and plant the seed and weed the garden bed and watch the thing grow, make sure it gets water, make sure it has ample sunlight, go through the process of harvesting it, like you've put a part of yourself into that. And so I feel like the honor for what you're consuming is so much greater, and the value of what you're eating is so much greater. And I like long for that. Like I want to feel that, and I think that's one of the biggest draws. And it's the same with livestock. So you raise this animal from a baby and you watch it grow and you make sure it's fed and you make sure it has water and you make sure it's protected and all of these things. And then this life is given and then you respect and honor it so much more.
Yeah.
And I think supermarkets take that element out of it a lot, or make it really easy to take the element out of it.
Sure. It disconnects you from the source of your food.
Yeah.
I've heard people talk about it from a scientific level of just even the digestive enzymes that your body creates when you are eating food you prepare versus food you bought, of how it changes the way your body digests it, because there's something about the cooking process that builds the enzymes and prepares your body. Your body's like, oh, I'm about to eat this. And I would imagine that that's even amplified when it's something you grew and cared for. And like, yeah, I think that's, there's something to be said about that. Not that everybody needs to do that, but it is something, Kim and I have talked a lot about, like something we're interested in doing is pursuing that type of a life.
Right. It's wild stuff, man. I don't know. So I think perspective shift, that's what I'm looking for this week.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Well, I'm looking forward to checking in on Thursday and seeing how, just seeing if if you've noticed your body having any more of a voice than it had today.
That's good. Okay. One last side note. This goes back to our roots and is completely unrelated. But if you're watching the crypto markets at all, did you see XRP pop off?
Yeah, I
And
wanted to bring that up as well.
It led the whole market. It's kind of awesome.
It was amazing. So what prompted that was they did get a ruling from a judge that XRP was not a security, which is part of the reason. It's a big win for them. It's part of the reason they've been in a lawsuit for the past few years. And so that definitely pushed their price. I think right now it's up like 56% in 7 days. And so that's a huge win for them, and in general was a huge win for the crypto market, because it just there was everything I was looking at was up at the moment. And so that's an amazing just an amazing thing to pay attention to. We're certainly not financial advisors, and we're not telling you to go buy XRP. Just wanted to share some news about what is going on in the crypto market.
And it's exciting to us. I saw one headline that we've been waiting to see. There was a headline that said XRP soars. And I was like, yes.
Yeah. Definitely an exciting few days.
Right. Yeah. Anyway. Okay. So that's our biannual crypto update.
That's right. It's good sometimes to get back into the roots of how the show started.
True. We're not far away from it. It's just we've had a different direction this year, and so we're going with that. However, we still have an eye on the markets, and still invested in that.
It's still deep in our hearts, even if it isn't the topic of every podcast.
Exactly. I'm glad you said that. That was a good way of saying that. Okay. Anyway, we'll see you on Thursday. I hope you also start connecting with yourself, and would love to hear any progress or insights you might have. I feel like we say this a lot, but we really love hearing from listeners. We just do. It's great, and we appreciate the community, whether big or small, any kind of connection we can have. So good luck this week. We'll see you on Thursday.
See you. Thank you for sticking around. Listen for new episodes every Monday and Thursday. Find us on all social media platforms by searching for Market Mystics. Don't forget to follow and subscribe. Visit upperroomcd.com, where you can find more information about the hosts, projects, and guests. Go deeper by booking a coaching appointment focused on redefining identity and wealth in your life. See you next time.